Hello, Haley and Molly. Thanks for being here. We'll get started here shortly. I'm just waiting for people to hop on. Um, as we wait, let's put in the chat one thing that you are proud of for this week. So, what you are proud of from this week, what went really well. I would love to hear. For me, I would say I'm very proud of, let's see, it's been a busy week. So I would say probably my time management has been decent. So I am proud of that. But feel free to share in the chat. We will get started here soon. Yes, Molly, I'm proud of you for doing your workouts, getting back into the gym and eating more balanced meals. That's awesome, Haley. Nice job. That can be hard to eat balanced meals, especially during this time. Hi, Christy. Thanks for being here. Your audio is connecting. I am gonna be recording this, so I'm gonna be sending out to yeah, everyone that might have missed it. So just know that this will be recorded as well. But so excited that you're here. I was just telling them to put in the chat what you are most excited about, or not most excited about, what you're most proud of for this week, what you have done that's been really successful. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for joining. Okay, so put in the chat what you're most proud of for this week and what, yeah, has been going really well for you. I'll kind of be looking at that as I go along. But I'm going to share my screen. And 1 second here. Also, happy Thursday. Can't believe it's like almost Christmas. I don't know about you, but it kind of feels like it, but not really. So, like I said, we're putting in the chat things that we are proud of for this week. I'm going to be trying to monitor the waiting room as people come in. But a little bit about me. So I just want to do an introduction. My name is Sarah. I am a personal trainer both in person and online, and I do fitness, health coaching, and yeah, I'm so excited that you guys all are here. Today we're talking about sleep. I did another one actually beginning of this year that was more focused on healthy relationship with food. So we went more into like food guilt and food shame and kind of just reframing how we view food. So I plan to do another one like that, similar in the new year, and excited about that because I think nutrition also can be very overwhelming. So stay tuned for that one. But today we're talking about sleep and success. So sleep, I found this, so before I kind of go into sleep, like I said, I introduced myself, a little bit about my story so that you can know who the heck I am. I struggled with a little bit of confidence and body image when I first got into my career and found a passion for taking care of my body and mind and taking care of both physically and mentally. So now I help others do the same if they have a stall in progress or just feel lost in the fitness space to turn that into a more simple, sustainable body strength and confidence mindset and framework. So that is, yeah, who I am. And I really love working with my clients about these healthy habits. So nutrition, sleep is going to be one of those pillars, water, exercise, of course, and mindset. So today we're talking about sleep and that pillar and how important that is. So I hope you take a lot of value as we go along. Um, Please stay muted. You can put everything in the chat, and then yeah, as questions come up. But let's kind of get started. So this quote I actually found this week, and I was like, okay, this is perfect timing as I was preparing for this. So a lot of people struggle with sleep because sleep requires peace. And I thought that was so interesting and so true. I find a lot of times when we struggle with sleep, we are very stimulated, maybe dealing with a lot of stress throughout our day and just a lot of things. We have a busy schedule. And when it comes to nighttime, it's hard to shut that off. It's hard to kind of just relax and be calm and get into that sleep state. And so this is kind of why I found this quote so valuable because we need to find peace in order to sleep. So I'll kind of hope as we go along some tips and tricks to help you get to that peace is my goal. First and foremost, let's just talk about why it's so important. Okay? So we need sleep. If we don't have sleep, you can tell when you get that good night's sleep compared to the poor sleep, right? You feel maybe agitated, maybe frustrated, maybe a little bit more on edge and more reactive, right? When you're in traffic and things like that. So it plays a vital role in good health, well-being, and throughout our life. So the way you feel when you're awake truly depends on what happens when you're sleeping. And we need it to have a healthy brain function. So, for mental health, for how we think, if we think clearly, we're probably getting good sleep. Another thing is just supporting our growth and our healing processes. So, restorative function, and not only that, but if you have kids or maybe you have kids, the development of children and teens is so important and that they're getting enough sleep. So that's oftentimes why you see, right, kids are sleeping in until 10 in the morning or 1 p.m. even, or even young adults, right? They're sleeping for a long period of time because they're still developing and some people need more sleep because of that reason. They kind of need that longer healing process. So that's why. Another thing is it strengthens our immune system cells, so to fight off infections. So if you're someone that does notice you get sick quite often, take a look at your sleep. So a lot of times with clients, if I notice they're, sick every month, that's when I start talking about, okay, how's their sleep usually been? Also, your stress plays a huge role in that and fighting off those infections. Another thing is going to be our ability to learn and remember things, remember what we're supposed to do today, our appointments, our just long-term memories overall, especially as you're aging and getting into those older years. Those formation of memories can kind of go diminish a little bit because of our sleep. And then, like I said, restorative function, mood regulation is going to be another one. So, like I said, if you're agitated or, we're happier when we sleep. So, and let's talk about the negative things that can happen. So there is so many. So I mentioned the immune system that can weaken, but I think the thing that kind of really can be detrimental is that increased risk that we do have for those chronic diseases. So things like Alzheimer's disease, stroke, heart failure, metabolic dysfunction, diabetes. And this is again not to like scare you, but like it's just again, this is all for information and educational purposes only. So I do want to preference that as well. Of course, always talk to your doctor for um, like more direct advice. But another thing is going to be your higher levels of hormones that control hunger. So I'm going to go into that more in depth, but the two are going to be leptin and ghrelin, and those are two hormones that control our hunger. Those get higher, which can decrease your ability to respond to insulin and your glucose levels. So if you've ever noticed when you're sleep deprived, you are more than likely going to eat more the next day or feel like you're kind of hungrier, right? Like you wake up and you're like starving or you're snacking more throughout the day. have more cravings for those fatty, sweeter, saltier foods. There's also going to be probably a reduction in how active you are. I don't know about you, but like if you do, go for walks or your workout, those days when you don't get enough sleep, like I don't feel like like your motivation's low, you don't really feel like moving as much. So that can also be a negative health outcome. These are some stats that I wanted to share about the how the negative health outcomes could be. So getting less than 7 hours, and this is also crazy to me because a lot of times I feel like people are getting around that 6 hours more often. And if you're averaging around that, you actually have 3 times more likely of a chance to catch a common cold than if you're getting more than that 7 hours to 8 hours. I don't have this on here, but I also was reading that when we get less than 7 hours, we have a 1.7 times increased chance of injury. So this comes more into that like fitness health side of like if you're going to the gym or if even if you're active or even through your daily life and you're getting around less than 7, you have an increased chance of injury if you're active. Another thing is going to be, like I mentioned, getting less than 6 hours, you have that increased risk of blood pressure and other cardiovascular events as well. Um, Again, there are a lot of factors. It's not just sleep, but when we're sleep deprived, it affects our weight. All these things are connected. Okay, I promise we'll get positive real soon. Sorry, these are very negative things that we're talking about right now, but just so we all know, chronic lack of sleep. I want to go into more about muscle. So, it has been shown that nearly a third of us over 18 are not getting that 7 to 9 hours, like I was talking about. And we know how important it is, but we're still, again, with busy schedules, the shifts at work you may be having, or, movies, there's a new show you're watching, you're trying to finish the season. There's so many factors, but I thought this was interesting when it comes to muscle. So, when we have chronic lack of sleep, it disrupts our muscle levels. So, how we are able to put on muscle and maintain the muscle that we have. And if you don't know, muscle is actually going to be an endocrine organ. So, it helps support our hormones, it helps support our digestion, it helps support our inflammation levels. So muscle is super important to our everyday lives, and that's why it's important to get enough sleep so you can support that muscle mass that you do have or you're trying to gain. Um, so, like I said, decreases that rate of muscle protein synthesis in healthy adults over time if you're getting disturbed sleep. And what that means is you're basically losing that muscle mass and strength, right? So the ability to lift things up off the floor, the ability to carry your groceries over time. Again, this is like, over time. It's not like 2 nights of lack of sleep. This is like over time, years of getting disturbed sleep can reduce your muscle strength and functional outcomes of how you move your body. Um, so yeah, I thought that was super interesting, especially as myself, I'm very passionate about putting on muscle and helping my clients do that same so that they can live a healthy, long life. And thought that was super interesting, that correlation there with sleep and muscle. Okay, now we're getting more into the science stuff. So enough about like the bad things that can happen if we don't get enough sleep. I want to talk about the 4 phases of sleep because I don't think maybe you learned this in a science class, but probably don't remember what's actually happening when you lay your head on the pillow at night. So I want to talk about those phases that we're going through more in depth. So I encourage you, if you do have, a piece of paper, to maybe take some notes so you kind of remember these things, but I will send out that recording to kind of, if you want to rewatch it later. But during sleep, you experience these 4 stages, and you actually go through this cycle around 4 to 6 times a night. And the most important one, which you probably have heard about, is that REM sleep stage, so stage 4. And that's called your rapid eye movement And that's when your brain is very, very active. That's when the restorative functions are happening. And that makes about 25% of your time spent asleep. On average, um, yeah, we're going through those about 4 to 6 times through the whole stages. When you're drifting into sleep, you begin in the non-REM sleep cycles. So stage 1, 2, and 3. And then you break, and then you kind of go through that. When I was talking about kid development, children, teens, the infants, even younger, right? Infants, they're spending about 50% of their time in that REM sleep. So compared to elderly people, they're spending a little time in that REM sleep because, they're done developing. So there's a lot of lifestyle factors that affect the function of this sleep cycle. So it varies tremendously of how much time you spend in each one individually. But for example, like if you're consuming alcohol or other stimulants, or you have high stress, or you are on your phone or like screen time, those all play a role into your sleep cycles and how long you're in those. Um, so for example, for alcohol consumption, that decreases the time you're spent in that REM sleep early on in the night. But then as the alcohol wears off, you are kind of rebounding in and out of that REM sleep. So that's why you often don't feel well rested, or just feel like you might have got like 10 hours, but you still didn't sleep that well. Okay. So stage 1. Okay. This is the non-REM sleep. Okay. So this is your lightest sleep. This is when you're kind of drifting away at night. So that first stage, you're actually only spending around 5 minutes in this stage. And you still might be aware of like what's going on around you, and you're like still starting to relax, and everything starts to slow down just a little bit. Then we progress into stage 2, where you start to relax a little deeper, your temperature starts to go down a little bit, and your breathing slows down, your heart rate. And this is where you're there a little bit longer, around 10 to 25 minutes. Again, it can vary on person to person. And then stage 3, so the last stage of that non-REM sleep cycle. This is a deep sleep period. So this is your deepest sleep that you're going to have. And this is where like your breathing is at its lowest, your brain activity is reduced, and your body is at that nice deep relaxation that we want it to be. But it's so important because this is when like your tissues are repairing. This is the time where, like I mentioned, the restorative stuff happens, you're regenerating your immune function, and also healthy cell growth. So really, really important stage, 20 to 40 minutes in this stage. So it's that first half of the night. And then rapid eye movement. So the last stage is stage 4. And this is the period where your brain activities increase. So it's very, very active, where you might have those very intense dreams. Again, some people are in this stage for a long period of time. And your muscles are actually like temporarily paralyzed, except for like the muscles. That's why it's called rapid eye movement, except for the muscles in your eyes. So they're actually like controlling. So your eyes are actually moving quite a bit, and you're breathing. So your brain is very active, similar to when you're awake, but this is when the dreams happen. It takes about 90 minutes to enter into this phase, and it only lasts about 10 minutes. Okay, but like I said, some people spend a lot of time in there. So like after that stage, you're going through it again. Okay, so it just cycles through over and over for those 7 hours of sleep. And each time you go back into that REM sleep, it could be a little bit longer because you're going like deeper into that. So the later stages, it could be more around an hour. But for adults, again, we're around that 25% of our time is in that REM sleep. But like I mentioned, how important sleep is for our brain. The REM sleep is when you have that ability where it supports your cognitive function and your critical thinking, memory formation. So that's why everyone always focuses more on that stage, because that's the stage where you're actually supporting your brain and everything is happening in that. It's actually, I like to think of it like it's a filing cabinet, right? Like your brain is like sorting out all the files from the day's work and like the to-do list. That's why people are like study before you go to bed. If you have like a test the next day, that's one of those reasons. So that way you can kind of like absorb all that information and like in your REM sleep and kind of rephrase it and go through it in your brain, which is so cool, so fascinating. Um, okay, sorry, I hope no one's sleeping yet because that was like very sciencey, but I hope you kind of understand how that works. So we're going through that 4 to 6 times throughout the night. Enough about kind of the actually what's happening. I want to go into kind of probably the main reason you're all here is like assessing your sleep habits. Okay. And the first thing I always like to talk about is a sleep diary. Again, this can look different. If you have like an Apple Watch, maybe you have a Whoop, maybe those like different fitness trackers, those already do it for you. So you can maybe use one of those. Or if you're old fashioned like me, literally using a pen and paper, a journal to just track your sleep. And you can do this for a week. I'm not saying to do it like, if you really want to know how your sleep fluctuates, go ahead and do it for a longer period of time. But I think a week is a good kind of rough estimate, or at least 2 weeks, to kind of see how many hours you're getting and the sleep patterns you're having. Especially if you really struggle with falling asleep, staying asleep in the night. This is good to like journal about or like write down, like, I didn't fall asleep till this time. I woke up at 3 a.m. I woke up at 2, like kind of just see the patterns and habits that are forming. And then not only that, but then writing down your energy levels that day, what happened that day that maybe was stressful, that could be impacting your sleep. If you did a workout, um, you can get really in depth, but these are just some things like energy, activity, just how you felt throughout the day and how your muscles feel, body feels. Those all will kind of you'll start to see patterns form. So that's going to be number one, kind of just tracking it overall. Okay. I don't know if anyone has ever done this. Maybe put in the chat if you have done like literally tracked your sleep like this before. I would love to know. I'd be really curious to see that. But the next one is going to be your sleep environment. Okay. So the ideal sleep environment that we want to be in. I think about it like if you ever got a massage and you go in the room, that's the type of room we want to set up for sleep. We want to have it be relaxing. We want it to be a dim light in there. Maybe you do play some calming music. Not required, but definitely is nice. But most importantly, just it's comfortable, right? It's cool temperatures. We want it to be around 65 to 68 degrees, so a little bit cooler. And that's going to help you sleep well. Okay. I I remember like growing up, my parents' house was always like 70, like like super warm, 70. But it was nice because I was in the basement, so it was like much cooler and I like remember sleeping so well. But I don't know, it was just made me think about that, how like we really want to be in that cooler environment. That's why people like to have fans on, get some airflow, and also the noise is also nice. So those are a couple of things that would be important to add in. And then, of course, the darker the room, the better. Of course, there's so many tools like, your blackout shades for the windows. You can get an eye mask, but just something to kind of just help, have it be dark as possible is always great, especially if like you do work late or in a night shift and need to, it's light outside and we need it dark. The next thing is going to be your head and neck alignment. So this is very interesting. If you are a side sleeper, raise your hand if you're a side sleeper. Yes, I am definitely a side sleeper. Like, you're like this, you're all curled up in this little ball on your pillow with your legs up and you're just in this little ball. Probably not the best, actually. And the reason why is because think of like your neck position, right? We're just kind of here and then on our pillow. Over time, if you keep sleeping like that, it actually can cause a little bit of shoulder issues, little disruption in the shoulders, and the neck, weakness, tightness in those areas, especially over time. So think about always kind of keeping your head and neck in alignment when you're sleeping. How you can do this is just try not to crunch. Try not to shrug your shoulders. So still like be in that ball, but maybe like on the side, but keep your head um straight and not curled up like this. There make wonderful pillows actually that form your neck with that pillow. I'm not sure if any of you have seen those. They sell them at chiropractic clinics a lot of times. Amazon has a ton actually on there. And basically the pillow is a big like U, right? Or like longer U, so that your neck fits in it really nicely when you sleep. And it honestly does wonders for like if you have neck issues or pain or stiffness in the morning. I would definitely recommend investing in something like that. And then a mattress, of course, that works for you. So if you wake up in the morning and you are sore, you feel like someone beat you up in the middle of the night, that is not great. We want to find maybe a new mattress, maybe just like finding, you know, pillows, like something to kind of help make it more comfortable for you. Consider maybe a firmer mattress if you don't feel like what you have is, the best fit. All right. Then we're going to talk about sleep hygiene. So, sleep hygiene. First and foremost, you might have already heard this before. I feel like talk about a lot now. How important sunlight is to get into your eyes. So we want it first thing in the morning. We know that our circadian rhythm is linked to light exposure. So the earlier you expose your eyes to light in the morning, the earlier your circadian rhythm is in check. So our circadian rhythm is that 24 hours. So it doesn't matter really what time you're waking up. It's just like that first, right when you wake up, that's the first thing you want to see. And that way you'll get tired earlier in the night too, because it starts to produce melatonin earlier on when you see the light earlier. Okay. A great way to do this is actually to get outside. So if you can spend at least like 10 minutes right away in the morning, if you are stuck in work or like right, you wake up later, have meetings, then wait till you have that break. Like if it's 9 a.m., 10 a.m., just the sooner the better, essentially. And grab a glass of water, maybe go on your deck, look up at the sun, the sky. Don't hurt your eyes, don't look up at the sun directly, but into the sky. And then yeah, or go for a little walk, whatever works best. But that's definitely going to be the best thing for getting your circadian rhythm in check. Because I don't know about you, but we are like when I'm outside, I feel so much better. I don't know who can relate to that, but like you just feel like mentally better and like it just feels so nice. So even if it's cold out, get some fresh air. And then the other habit is going to be a consistent sleep schedule. So we are creatures of habit. We need routine to maximize our sleep quality. And I know you probably, again, definitely something that people always talk about. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. But that has been on the top, like 2 or 3 like priorities when it comes to good sleep is that consistency because our bodies love that routine. They like sync to it. It's automatic. I think so many of us deprive ourselves of sleep during the week, but then when the weekend comes, we think, okay, we can catch up on our sleep. I'm sorry, but that's not how our bodies work. I wish it did, because I know we always want to like, all right, we'll grind now and then we'll sleep later in life. But the grind never stops really. So we want to really focus on it now. So for myself, it's around like 9:30 p.m. and then I wake up around like 4:45, 5 a.m. and still like sticking with that 30-minute window. Again, on the weekends, it can vary, right? But as long as you're able to like majority of the time stick within 30 minutes to an hour of that window, that's going to be more beneficial for you. So that way you get that consistency in your routine. And then blue lights. Okay, we have heard about blue light glasses. Do they work? Do they not? Um, Put in the chat if you have used them before and if you have found them to be helpful. But for me, I have used them in the past and they definitely are beneficial and like definitely can play a huge role in reducing your exposure to it. But like, why is it so important, right? Like, why should we not be looking at blue lights? The reason is because it disrupts that melatonin production. What helps us fall asleep and relax. So it's most disruptive at night. It's actually encouraged, just like the sunlight, the outdoor light. We want to get more of that light during daylight hours. So, like your phone, lights in your house, perfect, right? Throughout the day. That helps, boost your alertness, your attention, your mood. But at night is actually when we want to lower those lights. The best way is to actually just lower, like nowadays, you actually can like go on your computer screen and like go to your light settings and have it be a red hue. So a red light. And that's where you want that light to be, especially like 2 hours before bedtime and or at least an hour or two before bed. So I actually have my phone, if I click it 3 times, it goes to like a red light. Okay. And that way I'll have that on when I'm ready to go to bed, like an hour before. So I can still be on my phone. I can still kind of like catch up on things. Same with my computer. You can make it like a red light hue. If you, again, go to your settings, go to light, go to the red hue colors, and that will just be enough to kind of help with that. Also great to do, yeah, at night. Also, if like you're going to bed later than usual, so beneficial to do that. And then, like I talked about before, our sleep hygiene is all about down regulating. So remember in the beginning, I talked about sleep requires peace. This is where that peace comes in. We want to set our body and our system up for deep and restful sleep. If you're in that sympathetic state majority of the time, feeling stressed out and not able to like calm your mind, I can relate to that. I know how that feels. It really won't matter if you're going to bed at the same time, how dark your room is, how cool it is. If you have all these, cool tools, it really won't matter if you don't allow yourself to relax. So, one of the best ways I've found is to actually do some breath work to help get you in that parasympathetic state, which is that rest and digest state that we want to be in. How to do this is through nasal breathing. So breathing through your nose and big, deep breaths. Again, there's so many apps, there's so many videos online that you can kind of follow along to that can help prepare your mind for sleep. One of my favorite ways is actually 4-7-8 breathing. So you might have heard this before. This is actually when we want to have a 4-second inhale and then a 7-second hold and then an 8-second exhale. So very long exhale. If you're like, I don't think I can even exhale that long or hold it for that long, that's okay. Start with, 3, 5, like your own numbers, like as long as you're able to you can inhale for 4, hold for 5, and then exhale for 4 or 5. That's a good starting point, I would say. The long controlled exhale is actually what's actually getting you into that relaxed state. So a lot of times people think it's the inhale that's really important. It's actually the exhale. So really letting out all your air, and that's going to signal your vagus nerve, your nervous system to just relax, decrease your heart rate, your blood pressure. Also a great tool, honestly, to do whenever you feel stressed, but definitely before bed when you're laying there and just can't fall asleep. Helps promote that melatonin production as well. So again, 4-second inhale, big diaphragmatic breath, so breathing through your belly, holding for 7, and then like keep letting that air out for 8 seconds. Okay? Going to be so helpful for allowing your brain to just be chill. Again, I feel like for me, when it comes to like relaxing, breathwork has been the best. Another technique is progressive muscle relaxation. So that's where you do a body scan if you've done yoga or another thing like that. It's where you're just scanning your body. You might contract your muscles and then relax. Anything that kind of just gets you in tune with your body. Stretching, mobility, yeah, some light stretching, maybe you grab a foam roller, maybe roll out your muscles a little bit, a massage gun. Those are all great ways too to help you focus on your breathing and also work on your body a little bit and down regulate. So those are going to be those sleep hygiene habits that I would personally recommend for getting better sleep. We're going to talk about nutrition next. So, I know I went into a little bit about the two hormones, and I want to talk about them more specifically. So, we have ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin, it's funny. I always like to remember it. Think of ghrelin, like you're growling because you're so hungry. That's what it means. It basically is the hormone that tells you that you're hungry. And that's going to be increased. So that's going to be really, really high. Your leptin is the one that tells your body, I'm full, I don't want any more food, helps regulate your fat storage and your body's energy balance overall. And that's going to be lowered. So the hormone that tells you you're hungry is increased. The hormone that tells you you're full is decreased. So that's why when you're sleep deprived, you feel ravenous. You feel so hungry, or you just crave more foods. You crave more of those salty foods because you're just looking for that fuel. So that's one thing. It's gonna, increase your food consumption. Another thing to note when it comes to nutrition is we want to kind of avoid those larger meals before bed. And I would say like 30 minutes before bed, 45 minutes. That can lead to indigestion, acid reflux. Your body's more focused on that digestion process when you're trying to sleep. So we'd rather have it focus on the sleep, the relaxation, than focusing on digesting your food. It's also been shown in studies that we want to avoid those higher carb, low fat diets. And the reason why is because it suppresses the rapid eye movement sleep. So that's why a lot of times, and for clients and myself, we're eating more of that higher protein, a little bit higher fat, low carb diets. Okay. Still eating carbs. We're not just cutting them out. But we are eating just not a lower carb diet because of that reason, or a higher carb diet for that reason. Another thing is tryptophan. So if you have heard of tryptophan, it's a precursor for serotonin, which serotonin helps precursor for melatonin. And when we eat low consumption of these foods that are low in tryptophan, it can actually impair your sleep. So what are foods that are high in tryptophan? These are foods that are meats. So these are going to be, well, just some like meats, I should say. So like turkey, chicken, beef, there's many more, but those are some type of foods that are high in tryptophan and they're high in B vitamins. So and this was, I thought, interesting. If you love pumpkin seeds, it has a higher than meat of tryptophan, so more than 60%. And so that's another great source. So just eating those, like not before bed, but just like, throughout your day is helpful. Cherries and kiwis, so tart cherry juice, and is really high in melatonin. So there was actually a study that participants drank like 2 cups of the tart cherry juice one morning and one at night, and it improved their sleep over 2 weeks. But again, I just want to know too, like the cherry juice actually has 25 grams of sugar. So not saying it's the best option, but here and there, totally fine if you really struggle with your sleep. The better option I would say would be kiwis. So kiwis have fiber, which are going to help balance that insulin and have less sugar in them. The fiber will kind of balance how it affects your insulin and your glucose levels. And this study showed that when people ate 2 kiwis an hour before bed for about a month, they found that there was an improvement in many sleep parameters. So like falling asleep faster, they stayed asleep, and just greater total sleep time. So if you love kiwi, go for it, try it out. And yeah, it could help with your duration of sleep. Another key vitamin is going to be vitamin B6, which plays a big role in serotonin production. So those are organ meats, potatoes, and starchy veggies. Another supplement I want to talk about is magnesium. Sorry, I'm going really fast because I realize I have so much information I want to tell you guys. But magnesium. Magnesium is by far the one thing that made a huge difference for myself and clients that started taking this. If you're like, I already take magnesium. Okay, but what kind? There's so many different kinds of magnesium out there that I feel like people don't realize that help with different things. Like some with digestion, some with, joint health, things like that. Magnesium have really just regulates your nervous system, helps with brain cognition, promotes relaxation, and it's needed to actually make melatonin. So that's why it is so beneficial. So sometimes when I feel like people are lacking their sleep, really struggle, they're not taking magnesium, it's a good area to consider. Again, talking with your doctor, of course, as well. But 50%, over half of Americans are actually depleted in magnesium. You can definitely get these through foods, but definitely beneficial to like incorporate a supplement because we can't get all of the recommendation through those foods oftentimes. But these are some lists: almonds, black beans, avocados, bananas, Swiss chard, kale. My favorite, I love dark chocolate. Super good. Again, not before bed, but you know, throughout the day. Is another great option. And the specific magnesium I'm talking about is going to be threonate and glycinate. It's recommended to take 120 milligrams twice daily, or at least like one time, like 120, 145 milligrams. You can have it up to twice a day daily. And the supplement I take is actually a supplement called Myogen. So I'll kind of show it here. But you can get it on Amazon, and this one has 60 servings. It is pretty spendy, I will say that. But that's when it's like it works. Like there's a lot of, you can look up different brands, of course, on Amazon, but it's magnesium threonate, and it has helped a lot with, like, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I used to wake up in the middle of the night, now I don't, since taking that consistently. When I started taking it, I noticed I was relaxed, like almost like 20 minutes later after taking it. And that's when I knew I was depleted in it, because I was just like, wow, that hit me so hard type of thing. But definitely a great supplement to look into. And I will kind of type that supplement in the chat here shortly. Other supplements are going to be inositol and glycine. Those are also ones to be shown to help with increasing REM sleep, your sleep quality. Inositol is actually another precursor to serotonin. Like I said, where serotonin is that precursor to melatonin, which helps regulate your sleep-wake cycles. So also a great one to add in. So those three would be the top three to add into your regimen if you really are like, I want to have the best sleep of my life in 2024. Just to kind of like sum up here, the action steps. So of like what I would personally recommend each of you kind of like evaluate and like think for yourself of ones you could add in is going to be darkening your house, right? So dimming the lights. So in your room, maybe have a lamp that like helps dim your lights an hour before bed, turn the TV off, put the cell phones away. Again, I don't do those things. I don't turn the TV or like put the cell phones away, but I do dim those lights. I do put on that red light. And I've shown that that's helped a lot. Or I'm just not on my phone as often, right? It's like kind of more about like what you're doing more often than not, a lot of times with these things, right? Because it's not about, being perfect with our healthy habits. It's all about just doing the best you can, starting small, implementing some of these things, and what you're doing over time, right? For years and months. So it takes time to build these things, but start small. The next thing is going to be to spend time breathing. So like I talked about, try those 4-7-8 breathing techniques, maybe incorporate soft tissue work. So that just means the stretching, the mobility. So work, using your foam roller, massage gun, any other like tools you have to kind of like really just let the tension go in your muscles from the stress of the day. And then having a cutoff time for caffeine. So I don't really talk about this actually too much. So every like personally, I think a good recommendation is noon. Like try and cut off your caffeine. But it really does affect everyone so differently. If you feel like you can go later, definitely, go ahead. But for pretty much like majority, I would say like 4 p.m. should be the latest you want to go, depending on when you're going to bed. Some doctors even say like 8 hours, like limit, like before, like stop drinking caffeine 8 hours before you're going to bed. So, just be cautious of how close to bed you're having that caffeine. Limit your alcohol intake. So again, just try to separate your last drink from bedtime as much as possible. Um, or again, just like being consistent with those supplements and those other habits could definitely be beneficial. And then, um, like I mentioned with nutrition, we don't want to go to bed hungry. Okay, so sometimes clients will tell me like, I go to bed so hungry. Well, that tells me, okay, you probably didn't eat enough throughout that day, and start eating your meals earlier in the day. So that way you're not, kind of binging at night or eating most of the food at night. So kind of just switch around your meal timing could be beneficial there. Or again, try not to go to bed too full. So the opposite. Because then again, we're focusing more on that digestion and not your sleep, regulating your sleep. And then this last one, which I didn't really talk about too much, and another huge thing that you might have heard about is actually mouth taping. So when you sleep, we want to be mostly nasal breathing, so breathing through our nose, because again, that helps put ourselves in that like relaxed state. You're able to get more oxygen, you're able to breathe really well. And regulate, get your parasympathetic system regulated. But if you're waking up with a super dry mouth, or you're a mouth breather, or that you do snore sometimes, or you snore most of the time, a good, especially here in Colorado, it's so dry. This is what you use is basically you can buy like it's like 3M micro pore tape. So it's safe to put on like your skin and take off. It does not hurt at all. I started doing this like over a year ago, it's probably a few years now. But you put a little square piece on your lips. I know it sounds so silly. Literally, people will be like, "Oh my God, that sounds like very scary. You're just keeping your mouth shut." But it helps so much to kind of like not only retrain your body to breathe through your nose, but also help improve your sleep quality. I've noticed a huge change for my sleep quality. And definitely could be a beneficial thing if you struggle with that. Again, I'll post kind of the links here shortly in the chat. But that's another technique, another like tool to use. I'm trying to see. But yeah, those are my whole list of action steps. So that was a lot of information. I know that was 40 minutes of me talking. So I want to hear from you guys in the chat, or if you want to take take yourself off mute, tell me a habit that you want to implement to improve your sleep. I would love to know. Anything we talked about today that you're like, yeah, I really want to work on this, let me know in the chat. As you guys kind of think about it, I want to kind of just share some other resources to check out for sleep. So there's so many podcast episodes, but one of my favorite ones is by Dr. Huberman, and he has a episode called Toolkit for Sleep. This is a wonderful episode where he literally goes into everything I went over today, like tenfold, like probably 2 hour long episode. But if you really want to just have more information from a doctor, that's a great episode. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a wonderful book that is, again, in the importance of sleep. He goes into that book. And then Sleep Foundation. So that's actually a website that has a lot of sleep resources that is definitely going to be useful if you want to go more in depth with your sleep. Any questions? I love it, Haley. Consistency and routines. Put in the chat again a habit that maybe has worked for you in the past that led to sleep improvement for you. Maybe something you do, or maybe what you're struggling with. I would love to know that too. Try the lights in the morning. Nice, Molly. I'm going to find the links to share with you guys. Give me 1 second. Because I want to post those in the chat so you guys can have those resources. 1 second. Struggle with falling asleep, brain doesn't shut off. Yes, that's definitely a very common thing. I struggle with that as well. Sometimes it just feels like that's when like you think the most. Like I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like that's when like all my solutions to my problems come to me. I'm like, why can't it come earlier? So actually a good tool that I heard from someone was actually putting a notepad like on your nightstand or like by your bed with a pen and having so that way like if you wake up in the middle of the night or like if you're sitting there and can't like you're thinking of so many things, you can write it down on the notepad. Just like almost like a journal, but not, right? Like you can make it what it is, like your to-do list, or like if like an idea comes to you. So that way in the next morning you can start fresh with that notebook. So I love that tip that someone gave me that one time. I find doing like stretching, especially the hips, help with the hips, helps before I go to bed. Yes. Hip stretches are so good. We hold so many emotions in our hips, especially as women. Yeah, we're all women here. Literally. So, pigeon, right? If you guys have done pigeon, right? So, one leg is you're basically opening up one hip at a time with the other leg behind you. Having your legs up the wall, that's been shown to activate your vagus nerve, and that helps get you in that parasympathetic state. So basically, you lie on your back and you put your legs straight up the wall and take deep breaths in that pose. Again, like 5 minutes. I'll give yourself like 5 minutes. Um, that will help a ton as well with getting you relaxed. Okay, finally, I found my links. Any other techniques that you guys are going to try? I am posting these links. Okay. Again, I'll send it in the email as well. The magnesium and those resources, so that way, if they don't really work now, you can try it later. But yeah, that is all the sleep. I want to have one last slide here, and that's just my information. If you did want to reach out, had any questions further, or you want to work with me or just have more questions, you can reach me at my cell or Instagram. You can send me a word DM or send me the word transform for a discounted rate for actually 3-month coaching. So I do one-on-one coaching. I do this online, and this is where I help you with fitness, nutrition, or just nutrition only, a little bit of health coaching as well in there. So you can get that discounted rate for attending the class. But that is all I kind of have planned for this class. Is there any other questions? I appreciate you all for being here and hope you found a lot of value out of this. And Molly, I'll post that magnesium too. OptiMag Neuro. Thanks. Thank you so much, Haley. Thanks, Margaret, Molly. Thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. If you want to hear different topics, let me know. Again, nutrition will be in the new year. I'll talk about that. But really, really, again, takeaways are definitely going to be getting that sunlight in your eyes, blue lights, and down regulation. So stretches, deep breathing. We're all going to sleep so good tonight. We're going to do everything we learned today. Yes. I can't wait for the nutrition one. The nutrition one will be definitely going to be probably pretty probably going back into the basics and I'll probably have going over like different myths that people have and truth or fact type thing as well for the new year. But yeah, I hope you all get a good night's sleep tonight. I'm glad that we ended on time with 4 minutes to spare. It's great. Good night. Sleep well. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming again. And I can't wait to see you all in the next one.